Welcome to History Curiosities channel. In this video, I'll be discussing some of the most curious events in history. From strange coincidences to unbelievable feats, these stories will leave you amazed. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. 35 Horrible and Chilling Things About Jeffrey Dahmer. Part 2. True crime stories are attracting more and more audience interest. Many new series deal with the most talked about cases in history. In this way, they surprise new generations with the most terrifying details from the past. Jeffrey Dahmer was one of America's worst serial killers. So no surprises if you've been hearing his name more than usual lately. Dahmer is the focus of one of the newest series produced by Netflix. But the series really reflects the life and details of Dahmer's crimes. In this video we will tell you 35 real facts about this fearsome serial killer, his life, his heinous crimes, and the details you would have never imagined about this case. Before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications to stay up to date with our updates. Number 17. He took photographs as souvenirs of his attacks. Another somewhat more common souvenir among serial killers but also disturbing were photos. Dahmer had a collection of Polaroids that he would take right after the murder. It was my way of remembering what he looked like since I couldn't keep them with me completely, Dahmer stated. Number 18. He performed lobotomies. Dahmer's most heinous acts made him famous, but there are some even more bizarre and twisted facts about his crimes. Evidence shows that Dahmer did experiments to try to completely control his victims. For example, he experimented on a teenage boy whom he lured to his apartment. He drilled a hole in his skull and poured hydrochloric acid into it. His goal was to turn him into a docile zombie, who would stay with him without having to kill him. Surprisingly, the young man survived this attack and awoke from the anesthesia complaining of a severe headache. Dahmer then murdered him. Number 19. He planned to create an altar with his victims. After his arrest, Dahmer confessed to police officers that he planned to use the remains of his victims to build an altar. His plan was to decorate it with skulls and complete skeletons of his victims. According to Dahmer, this would be his meditation area where he could, in his own words, cleanse his thoughts and feed his obsession. Number 20. He said he didn't want to cause pain. One of the most incredible things about Dahmer's statements is that he claimed to care about his victims. In fact, he said he killed them in the least painful way he knew how. Because of this, numerous scholars have speculated that his murders were more a product of his need for control and to avoid abandonment than of extreme sadism. The post-crime atrocities were an extension of this unhealthy obsession with possessing his victims. Number 21. Once they caught him in the act and let him go. The police themselves turned Dahmer into one of his victims. He suffered the same experiments with lobotomies and sulfuric acid that Dahmer tried on another young man. In this case he also survived and found himself alone when he awoke. Dahmer had gone out to buy alcohol. Visibly disoriented and with little ability to move, the young man managed to get out of the house. 3 women found him on the street outside the building and called the police for help. When the officers arrived, Dahmer was also on his way. He told them that the young man was his partner, that he was an addict and that he used to get like this when he used. Although the women were incredulous, the cops decided to believe Dahmer. Probably because they wanted to avoid a couple's dispute, they handed the young man back to him. They even accompanied him to carry him back to the apartment and did not act even though they noticed the strong smell of decomposition in Dahmer's bed. Right after their departure, Dahmer murdered him. Number 22. He brought a human head to work. During his years at the chocolate company, Dahmer went so far as to bring a mummified head to his job. He kept it in his personal locker. "I wanted to have something of the person with me," Dahmer said in an interview after his arrest. That's how strong the compulsion was. Number 23. One victim escaped and was the one who turned him into the police. On July 22, 1991, when Dahmer was 31 years old, he took Tracy home. He was a man he had met at a nearby club. When he entered the apartment, Edwards noticed several bottles of hydrochloric acid and a strange odor. Dahmer managed to put handcuffs on one of his hands. Edwards then tried to flee, but Dahmer threatened him with a knife and said he wanted to listen to his heartbeat before eating him. Edwards tried a better strategy. He assured Dahmer that he would not leave him and even posed for several photographs. When Dahmer was sufficiently drunk, Edwards punched him in the face and fled the apartment. Running down the street, he encountered a police cruiser, called for help from the officers who escorted him to Dahmer's home. One of the officers went into Dahmer's room to get the keys to the handcuffs and opened a drawer where the collection of photographs of the bodies was found. They immediately arrested him. Number 24. Dahmer had already been arrested for inappropriate behavior. Prior to his final capture, he had already been in custody. In 1988, he served a year in a Milwaukee correctional work program after being arrested for drugging and molesting a 13-year-old boy. Despite this crime, he was released and even had various privileges during his sentence. Number 25. He was once allowed to leave the correctional program to celebrate. In retrospect, it is unusual to know all the privileges Dahmer had during his life. Especially thanks to the police. For example, after being arrested for assaulting a teenager. Not only did he have access to a program that allowed him to gain freedom, but during the time of the program he was allowed to go out and celebrate Thanksgiving with his family. An incomprehensible privilege for a person with his indictment and alcoholism. Number 26. Ironically, on that outing he became a victim. During that special outing, Dahmer ate with his family but soon left them to go to various bars. At the club where he did most of his abductions, Dahmer met a man with whom he talked and drank for a long time. Eventually he passed out from the alcohol and upon awakening found himself in a situation similar to that of his victims. He was gagged, tied to the ceiling with ropes. The man he had met was assaulting him with a candle. Dahmer screamed and begged for help. Unlike Dahmer, the man had mercy and let him go. Number 27. Police found human remains all over the utensils in the apartment. After Dahmer's arrest, in 1991 the police made a full search of the apartment. There they found a head and remains of other victims in the refrigerator. They also found bottles of hydrochloric acid and a large barrel where Dahmer melted the skin and skulls in acid. When they ran tests, they found that all of the utensils found in Dahmer's home had human remains. Number 28. He was declared legally sane. The investigation against Dahmer revealed that he had a variety of mental disorders, including borderline personality disorder, schizotypal personality disorder, and psychotic disorders. He also suffered from a disorder whereby people can feel arousal from bones or meats. Dahmer's lawyers cited all of this in asking that his sentence be given in a psychiatric asylum instead of prison. However, the judge found that Dahmer understood exactly the nature of his actions and the difference between right and wrong. So he declared him legally competent to stand trial. Dahmer was sentenced on February 17, 1992 to 15 life sentences. Number 29. He helped police find the bodies of his victims. Dahmer cooperated with police after his arrest. He confessed to his crimes and guided police in finding the remains of each victim for whom he was charged. Number 30. He confessed to an unexpected murder. Among his cooperation with police, Dahmer included confessing to the murder of Steve, his first homicide. The police had no idea about that crime. Since Dahmer had literally pulverized the remains, there was no evidence. Number 31. He denied an accusation. Dahmer only denied one accusation against him. The attack and murder against Adam, a 6-year-old boy kidnapped in 1981 in Florida, the same state where Dahmer temporarily lived at the time. Dahmer always denied the murder. Number 32. He was always a suspect. Although Dahmer denied the accusation, he was still investigated. In one of the interrogations with Agent Porter, Dahmer said, "Neil, you know that anybody who killed Adam couldn't live in any prison ever." He was referring to the punishment often suffered by prisoners locked up for committing heinous crimes against children. As a result, many were not convinced of his innocence. His statement seemed like a veiled confession. He could have made it but never acknowledged it to avoid reprisals. Number 33. He was beaten to death. Dahmer died on November 28, 1994. Just 3 years after his arrest, he was beaten to death by another prisoner. The other prisoner claimed that the guards left him alone with Dahmer precisely so that he would kill him. Number 34. Many of his crimes were enabled by racism. One of the most frustrating aspects of the Dahmer case is that his activity could have been prevented or at least stopped on many occasions. But time and time again the police allowed him to continue by always believing his version of events, ignoring those who accused him. For many it is undeniable that Dahmer enjoyed his white male privilege in the 1980s, taking advantage of the built-in racism in policing. If only officers had believed Dahmer's neighbor, Glenda Cleveland, when she reported him, 5 deaths would have been prevented. But Glenda was a woman and of African descent. She was one of the 3 women who found the young man the cops returned to Dahmer's hands. Number 35. Dahmer's brother changed his name. After Dahmer's crimes were discovered, his younger brother David officially disappeared according to reports. David attended the University of Cincinnati. He had a stable career and a family with at least 2 children. However, Lionel, the father of both, has publicly stated that David legally changed his name. He does not want to be recognized and did not even attend the trials against his brother. All aspects of the Dahmer case are frightening, but perhaps the worst of all is the furor this killer caused in much of the American public at the time. Many people declared themselves his fans. The case to some extent brought him more fame than justice or vindication for his victims. As time goes by, Dahmer's image remains increasingly frightening and creepy. But the fame remains intact. The new series has served to maintain the memory of his victims. Reflections on racism and the prejudices that his case must have left on the authorities. But the debate about the killer's fame over that of his victims remains. We hope you found this video useful. If you have anything to add, please share it with us in the comments section. Like this video and send the link to your family and your best friends, so they also know more about the horrible and creepy things Jeffrey Dahmer did. If you are new to our channel, don't forget to subscribe. We'll be back soon with more curiosities from history.